Have you ever wished there was an easier way to manage your YouTube channel? I mean, by the time you do your uploads and your downloads, and then you have to organize with your editor and your marketing person, and all the rest, it can be really quite challenging to eliminate some of that time. Well, in this episode, you're going to love it because I'm going to show you a really easy way to automate probably the most painful and annoying part of the whole process, which is actually downloading and uploading the videos to YouTube with no loss of quality. This is part of my larger series on automating my entire YouTube channel, apart from the actual content creation part where I record the video and some of the creative aspects of the editing. All the other manual work is going to get taken care of in this series, which is going to be absolutely amazing. And all of this is part of my determination to see if I can build a $1 billion business as a solopreneur by automating and using AI as much as possible. Anyway, let's get into the content. Just a quick note here before I actually go ahead and do the screen share with you. In this particular episode, I'm actually using a combination of Google Drive and Notion. Now, I have no particular affiliation with Notion. I personally love it and I use it in my business. I don't have any formal links with them. You can absolutely do the exact same thing with something like Airtable, or if you really want, you could probably do it with Google Sheets. If you'd like to hear more about those ones, feel free to drop me a comment, and if I get enough comments, I'll actually make an episode about it. Anyway, let's get into the actual screen share. I'm going to start by creating two credentials that we're going to need. And that's going to be our Google Drive credentials and our YouTube credentials. You go to your Google Cloud Console, which is here, consolecloud.google.com, and the link to that is in the description. You can just head along here and search for APIs. Here you're going to see APIs and services. If you don't have one already, you can just either create an organization and do that, or you can skip ahead and just go to new project. I'm going to just call this test upload project. Organization has been pre-filled by Catalyst Group Solutions, which is my company, and we're going to go ahead and push create. Great. Now what we want to do is click Enable APIs and Services. And here we just need to search for YouTube. And we want to choose this YouTube Data API version 3. The analytics and reporting are things we'll use later on in the project, but for now, we're just going to start by doing this one here. And hit Enable. Now do the same thing for our Google. We will look into the Google Drive Activity API later on in this channel as I start to build my entire organization. But for this particular episode, all you need is this one here. We're going to enable that. Awesome. Now what we want to do is to create some credentials that will actually allow us to use this. We want this OAuth 2.0 ones. We're going to say create credentials. We want an OAuth client ID. Then we're going to configure our consent screen. I'm going to call this our test upload project support email. I'll just make it this email that I'm testing with. And for those of you who've been watching my channel for a while, you might recognize this old name. We're only going to make this internal today. With the same here. Agree to that, push continue, and we're going to push create. Now we're going to create our thing, and this is going to be a desktop app. We'll call this test download Python client. Push create. Now this is really important here. So this notice here. Effectively, what's going to happen is the moment you create this, you need to download those credentials and store them somewhere. Now, for those of you who want to be hackers, I'm actually going to be deleting this straight after I make this episode. So this is not actually going to be viable if you want to use this. So here we push this download JSON, and that will download it into your computer. And you're really going to need this later on. We push OK. If you wanted to go ahead and use two separate things, all you'd have to do is repeat this process, one for YouTube and one for your Google Drive. I'm going to keep it the same for now, just for simplicity's sake. Here we go to Notion, and we're going to do two things here. The first thing we're going to do is to set up our Notion credentials. And we do that by going to Settings, heading down to Connections. See all the different connections I've got there. We're going to go to Develop or Manage Integrations. Here we're going to create a new integration, and you can see the one that I use for myself internally here. Associated workspace is going to be whatever workspace we're using in Notions, and we want this to be an internal connection. If you want to upload a logo, you can. And once you've done, you're going to push add a name. So we're going to call this our Python download YouTube. Now, once again, you're about to see a credential get created, and I will be deleting this as soon as this episode is over. So, don't try and hack it. It's not going to work for you. Push save. Now we're going to configure our integration settings. See here, this integration setting with Notion is not going to go away. So you can come back here anytime you want. You can show it here. There it is there. And you can copy that if you want it, and we'll use that a bit later. Here you can set all the permissions. I really recommend that if you're using this for some sort of distributed project, you make sure that you get these permissions right, because they can have a huge impact on what you're doing. That's the first thing. If we go back to our connections here and we refresh them, Settings, Connections, be able to see it here, Python download YouTube. Put it in here. Now this is really important, this access page. So you can see that although I've created the connection, I also need to give it access to the pages that I want it to have access to. So in here, you can choose whatever you want. For simplicity's sake, I'm just going to give it access to my entire workspace. I don't recommend this in the real world. Make sure you just choose where you want this to be. So here's our team space, general, and push update access. Now this credential has access to everything in the workspace, which is really important. Fill out more information here, and you can set up some webhook subscriptions if that's what you'd like. Now, the purpose of the table I'm about to create is to allow you to track what happens with your videos. If you just want to use the download and upload script, you probably don't really need this. However, if you want to create the overall YouTube management platform that I'm showing you how to build in this series, this is really important. This table is going to record what your script is doing. And if you wanted to talk about it in technical terms, it's a form of state management. Now you can see where I've set this up in my video tracking already, but we're going to recreate this for the purposes of this video. So if we go here, I'm going to add a new page, and we'll call this Video Project Tracker YouTube. I'll differentiate it for me. Just get rid of that little sidebar for now. And in here, we're going to create a couple of things. So we're going to call this YouTube channel tracking, and we'll create a new one here, which is a heading one. We're going to call this our download upload state manner. Great. Here, we're going to create an inline database. We're going to add in a few columns here. Now, you're absolutely welcome to speed through these. If you go to the linked blog article, which is also hosted on Notion, which is pretty cool, you'll be able to see all of them here, or you can just follow along with me. So here we're going to call this database our download and upload tracker. Awesome. This one is going to be called title, and it is in fact the title property for that. The next property is going to be the file size, and this is going to be a number. Going to have a Google Drive link. That's going to be a URL. And have a YouTube URL. So this will be after you've uploaded it. A YouTube ID, which is going to be text. We're going to have a status, and we're going to add two statuses in here, so that's going to be a select. Add in, option, which is going to be failed success. Great. Upload date, which is going to be a date field, and an error message, which will be a text. Great. Okay. Let's go on to the script. I'm going to show you the scripts, but I'm only going to briefly go through it. One of the really cool things I did with this is I actually made it completely with Claude, which means I literally just told it what I wanted to do and it did the rest for me. Now, that's called vibe coding if you haven't come across it already. And I've got a previous episode where I talk about what that is and what it looks like. But it's pretty straightforward. Basically, all you need to do is you go in and you push main.py and then setup, and it'll run you through all the setup that you actually need. You'll be able to see the link to the GitHub in the descriptions below. What I did here is I downloaded it as a zip to my computer, and then I've unzipped it and I've opened it in my VS Code. For the entirety of this series, this is pretty much going to be the last time that you actually need to do any coding, and it's pretty straightforward. The other thing I did is I went and got the client secret that we downloaded from the Google console, and I've put it in here. The first thing that we want to do is to copy this. We want to rename this twice. Okay, now the name for this one is going to be G Drive Engine JSON, and this one is going to be YouTube credential.json. I'll just double check those names. Whoops. So that's going to be credentials. Yeah, now let's open up a terminal. Okay, so first of all, we want to create a new virtual environment. Okay. And let's install all of our requirements. So let's do that. Let's activate our VM. Now I'm going to show everyone this cool little trick that you can now do with agent mode in VS Code, which I think is really, really great if you're really not into coding and you just want to get your way through it. You got this, like, activate the virtual environment. Great, look at that. Tells you what you need to do. And if you push continue, it's going to run it for you. How good is that? Let's run the setup. So we're going to go Python. Just move this away. Python main.py tac setup. And this is going to help you work through this. So you need a Google Cloud Console project with APIs enabled, Google Drive API and the YouTube, done. OAuth 2.0 credentials downloaded as JSON files, done. And a Notion integration token. Go to your Google Drive, make sure it's the same account that you use your credentials for. And in here, create a new folder. And we're going to call this YouTube Downloads. Now, just for everyone's awareness, what's going to happen here is I've actually set this up in my Catalyst Group Solutions Google Drive purely for demonstration purposes. I'm going to swap those credentials over just when I do my video. And the reason I do that is just for security purposes. That way I never expose sensitive credentials on the screen. But all you need to do is create this YouTube Downloads folder, and then here, just right click it, click share, copy that link. I'm going to head back to the VS Code and we'll go from there. It's much better. Here is our credentials file. So G Drive credentials.json and YouTube credentials.json. We can check that we got that right here. Now, here you get a couple of options for your YouTube things. If you want to go through this entire series that I've built, we're going to be using the private one. And the reason for that is we'll then update the private ones later on to make sure that they reflect all the information that we want to add to them later. But if you just want to publish them straight away, you absolutely can. That would be number 3. I'm going to choose number 1. Here you can choose what category you're going to be going in. I'm doing mine in people and blogs, but you could also do it in science and technology if you wanted to. You could add in some tags if you want to. For this particular series, I've just added that in just to be helpful. But for my particular series, we're actually going to be doing the tags in a different way. So we'll put no tags in here. And we do want to configure our Notion integration. So we're going to say yes. This will give you a quick helpful guide on how to do it. And then I'll go ahead and get the Notion token now. And just a reminder, I'll be deleting that token as soon as we finish this episode. Now we want to get this database ID. To get the Notion database ID is actually pretty easy. Head back to the Notion where we created our download and upload tracker. Open this as a full page. We want to view database. Now, if you check the URL, you've got notion.so/tradeoxy, and then you've got this alphanumeric character here. And then you have the question mark V equals. Now, the question mark V equals this actually specifies what kind of view you want to use. We just want the part that's in between the slashes and the question marks. If you copy that there and head back to the Visual Code Studio, we'll go from there. So we come back here and we're going to enter our database D. Okay, process settings. We want to delete videos after upload. So this will just delete them on your local drive. So that's yes. And the setup is complete. Next step, we're actually going to run it. All right, let's see how we go. So we go Python, main, Python. What's going to happen here is it's going to ask us to go ahead and sign in for both of our credentials. So that's going to be your YouTube credential and your G Drive credential. In my case, I would need to go ahead and sign in using the Tradeoxy account, but because I've switched over to Catalyst Group Solutions, we'll go ahead and do that. I'll come back to the recording once that's done. Great. All logged in, so let's try this again. Okay, what happened here? What's happened is that we actually have no videos in our folder. Next stage, let's give it a go. So Python main.py. Look at that, working perfectly. Right now, when you're manually adding the videos into that folder, it makes sense to just run that script ad hoc. However, if you want to see how to completely level up your overall YouTube thing, then you're absolutely going to love the next few episodes. And don't forget, all of this is in the service of me trying to see if it's possible to build a $1 billion entrepreneurship solopreneur business just using AI and automation. If that's of interest to you, click subscribe, follow, and I'll see you in the next episode.